family. Most Western countries are around 1.3 or 1.5, whereas Muslims, with the open immigration, they're coming in by the hundreds of thousands to these places. And they've got birth rates of 6, 8, 10 babies. The countries are falling. Sweden and Belgium are both known as Muslim states. When they get enough people, they pass the laws. They do away with constitutions, which you can do if you have the votes. What do Americans do? Nothing. They ignore it. They turn their heads. They turn their heads and pretend it's not happening. It's easier than recognizing that it is happening. It's easier than acknowledging that it could happen here, that it will happen here. We can't turn a blind eye and watch a country fall. I forgot to look the phrase up, the saying up, so I can't quote it exactly. Richard in the chat room gave it to me a couple of weeks ago when I first mentioned it. But the quote goes something like, they came for the smokers and I didn't do anything because I wasn't a smoker. Then they came for the drinkers and I didn't say anything because I didn't drink. Then they came for the Jews and I said nothing because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for me as a Christian, and there was nobody to come for me because everybody was gone. We can't stand by and watch these other countries fall and still bring these people into our country. We need to shut immigration down to all Muslims. We need to identify who the Muslims are that are already here and put them on a fast track for deportation. Because it has been shown again and again and again. And even the Muslims say there's no such thing as radical Islam. There is only Islam. There are thousands of mosques being built in this country. There are thousands of mosques already built and thousands more being built. On a weekly basis, we cover mosques that are being denied by municipalities, and the Muslims sue. And oftentimes the federal government steps in and sues the city to allow a mosque. And yet 87% of the mosques in this country preach hate for Jews. They preach hate for all non-believers. They preach a violent jihad. And a large majority of Muslims in this country, whether they're worker bees in society or not. And while most of them certainly don't engage in radical Islam, most of them don't engage in the violence, over 80% of them say it's understandable. It's excusable. They have to be Muslim. Because to them, Sharia is all that matters. To them, it is the Quran, and the Quran instructs them to behead all non-believers. So while they may not have the stomach to do it, they can't go against the word of Muhammad. And trust me, when the numbers get great enough, we will see more beheadings here in America. We've seen them just this last year. We've seen several beheadings. Several. And don't you think for a minute that it's anything but jihad. Folks, stay with us. We've got a lot more coming up. We'll be right back.
Tom O'Halloran, holding the line against tyranny from Washington, D.C.
Welcome back. This is the fastest hour in radio. This is the Wednesday night edition of the Patriot-Radio-Show. I'm your host, Tom O'Halloran. I'd like to give a shout-out to everybody in the chat room tonight. I'm going to call them out with their Twitter names so you can follow them on Twitter. Dune44, buddy of mine for years. Veronica Coffin, my editor, my producer. Junebug19, a friend of mine on Twitter for quite some time. And Gulf Dogs, good friend of mine as well. Thank you guys. I always appreciate you guys being there. Now, for about 8 years, I've been praying, I've been begging, I've been tweeting. I have my own wish list for a presidential ticket. I don't have a lot of hopes that I'm going to get it, but I've been wishing for a Ted Nugent, Chuck Norris ticket. I just think we could use some real ass-kickery, and that would do it. And to show you what I mean, Ted Nugent came out, our last story in the last segment was how can we stop Islam from spreading here in the country? We have to wake up. We have to do something. We can't just sit by and watch Europe fall and think it's going to be okay here. That it's not going to happen. Ted Nugent was asked what he thought. I love this guy. Ted Nugent, if you don't know, is a rocker, super rocker. He's Uncle Ted to many of us. He's a nationally known Second Amendment. What is it? Ambassador, I guess. He's always at the NRA conventions. He's got a hunting lodge. He's right here in Texas. Love him. Support him. He was asked, what would we do? He goes on record. He says, radical Islam is a global cancer. Sharia law should be seen as a hate speech that it is. Its very essence is a criminal act of sedition, advocating the overthrowing of the United States government, punishable by hanging. He goes on to say, it must be dealt with now, not tomorrow, not next week, or surely this religious cancer will consume its host, and darkness will indeed cover the earth. Then he really got them fired up when he said, the best course we can take at this point is to kill them all and let Satan sort it out. That's my policy, he says. That's my policy. We have to take action. To keep inviting them in is akin to filling your sleeping bag with as many scorpions as you can put in it. They say their goal is to kill all non-Muslims. They say their goal is to take over America, replace the Constitution with Sharia law. These are their words. These aren't my words. Wake up, people. If a man comes to you on the street and says, I would like to come and spend the weekend at your house, I'd really like to kill you and all of your family, are you going to bring this man home? Highly unlikely. So why do we as a country allow this? They themselves, their very words, their leaders, their imams, they say their goal is to take over the world, to spread Sharia law around the world so they can stone women, so they can nationalize vaginal mutilation, so they can stone women worldwide for going outside without a burqa. They tell us they want to destroy us. And we open our borders and see how fast we can bring them in. Now, I get that Obama hates America. I get that he loves the Muslims. I get that he wants Sharia law here in America. He's one of them. But why do we allow it? Why do we allow our congressmen to allow it? Why haven't you picked up your phone this week and called your representative and demand that they look at Europe and see what's happening? Demand that all immigration of any Muslim be stopped immediately. Demand that hearings begin on deportation of any Muslims in this country. It's not up to the government to fix this. The government is being run by one of them. If you were a rancher and the foxes were eating your chickens, would you put a fox in charge of security? That's what we've done. We put a Muslim in charge of protecting us from Muslims. What has he done? He put a Muslim in charge of the CIA. He's got Muslims in charge of security and Homeland Security. He's got Muslims in charge of training for the FBI. Our government will not stop them. Our government is being controlled by them. But what have you done this week? It's up to you. It's up to me. I come on here and I rant and I scream and I yell week after week after week. 3 hours a week on here. We've got 15 blogs we use to wake people up to what's going on. We can't do it without you. And I'm not just talking to fellow conservatives. I'm talking to the liberals as well. Liberals are known for being all-inclusive. Let's get all multiculti. Let's embrace all cultures. Oh, love Muslims are great. I love the Muslims. Oh, they're wonderful people. Yeah? How you can explain that to your gay friends when they find out that your Muslim friends want to kill your gay friends for being gay? This is what they do. This is the penalty for being gay under Sharia law. Go on TomO'Halloran.com. Go on YouTube. Google it. This past couple of weeks, we've seen 4 people being thrown off buildings. I'm talking 6-story buildings for being homosexual. If you're a liberal, you ought to have real problems here. I admire your openness and willing to love everybody, but you can't love a scorpion. The scorpion is here to sting you. The Muslim is here to kill you. I talked last week about a couple in Colorado. They wanted to show another side of Islam instead of all the murder, instead of all the